Hopefully you took a minute to take on the last item I gave you on the last video, which was adding your own music. The hints I gave you are that you needed to add it to something that would persist between the scenes, which hopefully was good enough to tell you that you needed to use your level manager. That's where you needed to attach the audio. Your sound had to be on this because it keeps going through every scene. What I did was I added a component and I used an audio source, and then I drug my audio clip into it. And I also turned on these two settings right here. So play on awake and loop. Play on awake means as soon as the object starts existing, it will start playing that sound. And then loop, once it finishes, it'll go back around and, replay, so on and so forth. I didn't mess with any of these other settings because I'm happy with the way it sounds, but if you wanted to, make it so that the priority was lower so that whenever the sounds of your ball are hitting or it's louder, that's fine. That's how you would do it. If you wanted to change the volume so like the background music is quieter and you could make your ball sounds louder, that's fine. That one is all about flavor. It's all up to you, but I'm sure you figured that one out. That one was pretty straightforward. We do have to do a little bit of housekeeping. So here is the current challenge we face. So if we start this game, and see if I can make it through a whole round of the game without getting stuck. So once I get to the end of my game here, blip, blip, blip. Maybe it'll go through, maybe it won't. But here's what's going to happen. Whenever I win this round, right now I have a score of 500. 600. I can count, I promise. So I won. My music's still playing. You can't hear that on your end, but I can. My music's still playing. That's great, and I want it to continue playing. When I hit play again, I still have the same game object and it still has the same score. So if I don't want this score to exist and not because if I keep playing, like if I start another game, I can keep adding onto that score and just keep adding it forever and ever and ever. And that's probably not how I want our game to actually run. Because it doesn't make a lot of sense, right? You've lost or you've won, you've finished either way, and you want your game to actually move on from that point. So what we need to do is whenever we do anything that restarts the game, we need to tell the game to change its values or reset its values in some way. So there are a couple of ways we can go about this, and I'll cover over a couple of them so that you can kind of choose what works best, what kind of flavor you want. But in our level manager script, we need to have some kind of a public void that tells our game that it's resetting. So public void reset game, probably a good way to call that. And basically in here we need to say that it needs to do something. So one thing we could do is instead of doing anything too drastic, we could just reset our current score back to 0. So it'll still have a 0 in that main screen, but our music will keep playing. So if that is what you want your music to keep playing so it feels like one long game session, then you could do that. So if its current score is set to 0, but right now we don't have anything activating this method, it's just written. So where in our game do we need to reset everything? So think to yourself, what did I do to get back to the main screen? I clicked the button. And where do I click a button? That's in my scene loader script. So if I go over to my scene loader script, whenever I hit play again and it loads the first scene, that's probably the scene that I want to put, or the place that I want to call that method. So this is something we've used a couple of times now. So we're going to find an object of type, and we're looking for that script that we just made a method on, right? Parentheses open and closed. And then we need the reset game method that we just wrote. Save that. So whenever we hit a play again button, it should set the score back to 0, and we should be able to move on. So let's see how that works. So if it loads and it gets all done, okay, let's play the game. I'm going to start. For the sake of getting faster, I'm going to go back here. My high score is 200. When I hit play again, it goes back and it's still 200. So let's see what's going on here. Play again, load scene 0, find object of type, reset game. And level manager. Update scores, score text. We need to add this component. We need to update our score. This is why we play test. Update score. Save that. So now it should visually change. It should have reset the score to 0, but it wouldn't have actually, we never told it to actually change that text. So I think that might have fixed it. Let's see. All right, if I start the game, boop, 100 points, play again, back to 0. Perfect. That's exactly what we want. You notice my buttons are hitting at the wrong point too. I'm going to have to adjust the hitboxes. Apparently at some point I shifted them around in some way I should not have. So I'm going to have to do some adjusting there. Again, another reason why we do playtesting. So if you want to, instead of just changing the score back to 0, maybe you want the music to end and everything to reset all the way back to the beginning, the easiest way to do that is to just destroy the whole game object. So I'm going to comment out these for reset game. And I'm going to say whenever you call the reset game, you're going to destroy yourself. So once you reset the whole game, you just stop. You just stop existing. That way, once we hit to level 1, it'll just reload the next don't destroy unload, and then we will be moving on from there. So let's see if we hit play. I start my game. Got 100 points. Okay, play again. Everything's gone. You see the don't destroy unload is gone. If I start the game again, it is back. My score is back to 0. Like so. Play again. Music is stopped. Scores back to 0. So that's another way to do it. The downside, of course, is that the sound is back to 0, or the music has stopped playing. If you want, instead of attaching your sound to your script for your level manager, you could create another game object that has your sound on it that will have that code on it that makes it not destroy every time it loads into a scene. So basically take your level manager script and you need this little bit here that says when you load this thing in, double check if there's multiples of them. If there are, destroy the extras and keep playing the same thing over on here. Then you can. That is up to you. You can choose to do that. It is your game, so however you want to go about solving it, that's fine. Something else that has been bothering me is that it's something I actually tweaked off the screen. So I'm going to go back and show you what I did. On my ball, I noticed that it was slowing down quite a bit. It was making it so that every time it went up in the air, it was just kind of had a lot of like drag. And I noticed it was because my gravity scale on my rigid body was set to 1, meaning it had 1 normal Earth amount of gravity. I don't know what that means necessarily in Unity terms, but basically it meant whenever I bounced the ball up into the air, gravity would slowly take hold and pull it back down instead of it just moving at a constant speed through space. So to fix that, if your ball feels a little bit sluggish or it slows down over time, which you definitely do not want in a game like this, you want it to be pretty consistent, then take your gravity scale on your rigid body and set that to 0. And the last thing that we want to take care of today is we want to make it so that our game has a kind of natural level progression. So on our game right now, I have just generic kind of levels set up, and they're not really set up in any kind of order of difficulty. So normally when you play a game, right, you have the easy beginner, like learn how to play levels first, and then you get introduced to new elements as you move along, right? You don't have every type of candy in the first level of Candy Crush, right? You only have a certain number of colors and a certain number of cool power ups, and it builds on it as you go. You don't have all the extra like power ups in Mega Man. It's just a thing that as you progress through a game, it gets harder and there gets to be more elements, right? So what I want to do for mine and what you are going to do for yours is you are going to go through and make a natural level progression. So make it so that your game's first couple of levels are harder or are easier. Harder, that would be rough. Make it so the first level is like the easiest level, and the second level a little bit more difficult, and slowly introduce your obstacles. Make it so that the player feels like they're, running into new things all the time, and they get excited about what's going to be in the next room, or what kind of challenge they have to face in the next room, or can they get past this level to get to the end. I want you to create 10 levels for your game. So levels 1 through 10, not including your start screen, your win screen, or your game over screen. So 10 total levels. And I want you to make it so that it gets harder as you go along, but not unbeatable. Don't make it so your screen is just like filled with all your unbreakable blocks. If you want to create more types of blocks in this stage, I would recommend it because it is kind of neat. Even if your level mechanics are still the same. So say I still have these 3 types of blocks in every room, but they look different. Like maybe these green robots are purple in another room, but they still have 1 health and they destroy immediately on hit. That's fine. But it adds a little bit of flavor to the game, right? I know I was talking about earlier that I wanted to make it so that maybe I had a red robot that was like really big and had like way more health than the other robots. I probably do that at this stage. I might take it so that my moving robots have a different color. I'm not sure yet. I'm going to work through it. I'm going to record my process so that you guys can kind of see what that looks like. I'm going to speed it up so you can, watch it real quick. But I expect to spend quite a while doing it. And I don't expect you to rush it either. So as you create levels, make sure you play test them. If you're not sure if something is beatable or if you think something is way too easy, you have other students you may ask to play. You can call me over and have me try it out, see if it's a good level of difficulty. So I think maybe aim for like, if you beat level 10, it feels like a really big accomplishment. That'd be great. So that's what we're going to do for this step. I think to tie up this whole unit, we'll talk about different things that we could add maybe to make this game feel extra polished, maybe make it look a little bit fancier. But I think we're pretty much here at the end, right? We need to have our game progression. We need to have, we have our sound, we have scorekeeping, we have it resetting the score at the beginning. Yeah, I think we're pretty happy with that. So make 10 levels. Make sure you play test them, try to play all the way through them, try to make sure it feels good, and then we will talk about where to go from there.